What's going on, guys? You got Quasi here for Quasi Media Network and Quasi Animation Studio, where you presently are. Check this out. Today, we're going to get into the next step, which is another simple actions video. Right now, we have Stuart walking. This is Stuart from Day in the Life from the Quasi Media Network. Okay? Excuse me. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to add an animation on top of him. So, I'm going to show you some NLA work here in Blender. Okay, so we have the NLA editor. We don't need the sequencer, so I'll slide this over a little bit more so we have a little bit more space, and I'm going to go through a series of things. The first thing is how everything's moving together. You see that, right? Okay, so what you'll do in each area where it says view, even here it's not there, but you go to these three lines, go to view, and you will click sync visible range on all of them. Okay, in your graph editor, you want to make sure that you have only selected curve frames. Curve keyframe selected. Okay, only selected curve keyframes. All right, because this will not be selected by default, nor is sync visible range. Okay, so when you do it, these things will move together. This way you can keep track of your animation. All right, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to hit T, I'm going to hit N. Now, the only way I use N is if I'm offsetting animations. We will not be doing that, but I will be using Tween Machine. Tween Machine, however, is free and you can download it from GitHub. Okay. The next bit is we're going to have you use the graph editor to do some smoothing, and we're going to use also animate in here for the curve tools. Okay. We're not going to use it for anything else, just for the curve tools. Okay. All right. So to be in the graph editor, you hit N and it pops up just like down here. You get N. Okay. Over here, we're going to also be using our menu or properties for our tracks. So again, he already has a walk cycle. We're going to add to that. So I'm going to show you how this works without using animation layers, the animation layers add-on. So let's go. Okay, so this is what I was thinking. I'm thinking he's gonna walk, right? So let me go ahead and set him up to move. Let's set him up to move. All right. Okay, so what I want him to do is basically, like, let's say for instance, be waving over here, right? So how we're gonna do this is like so. You're going to go down to playback on your timeline. You're going to make sure frame dropping is on, and that under playback, follow current frame is on. Then under keying, you're going to go up here. You're going to type in whole, and you're going to end up at whole character selected bones only. Click that. And you're going to turn on auto keying. Now, let's turn on the character. Let's get in close. All right. So I'm going to decide which parts I want to use, but we have to begin it from the beginning. So when you insert the first key, make sure that key is inserted from the beginning. Okay. I don't know if his head is okay. Let me see. I don't think so. Hold on. Let's fix that real quick. Oh, I've hit the wrong button. All right. We're going to go down to here. Hit F3. 3, not F3. And click and adjust his head. All right, that's the reason why I'm doing it, because it seemed like it was off. All right, I'll do it again, kind of set it a little better than that. All right, there we go. And deactivate and close. Okay, so we're gonna go back into local because we want to be able to move these on their local axis, nothing else. All right. Okay, so now the next step that we want to take, all right, is over in the NLA. You're going to click your track and you're going to add track. Now you can do that by way of add by saying, well, add action strip. Well, I'm sorry, add tracks, not strip, because the strip is going to give you a selection of strips. Okay, so now what we want to do, for me, I have a high key for it, so I'm just gonna hit F, and I have a new key. I'm going to come over here in the side panel, and it's going to give me my blending type. Okay, now if I click this, it's not going to, it'll give me a blending type, but we don't want to change that because it has scale on it and everything. So we're going to click the NLA. We're going to click the NLA. It just sounds loud to me. I'm sorry. We're going to click the NLA, and we're going to change this to add in the blending. Okay, so make sure that track is selected. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all of the parts that I intend to use. Okay, well, really more the ones I don't intend to use, which is everything on the bottom. So I'm going to select all of this, including the root, the pelvis bone. And I'm going to hit Control I. And now everything at the top is selected. Okay, including the hair and all that. It doesn't even matter. I'm just going to select it. Okay, and then I'm going to hit I. Now we have a keyframe set, and we can go from there. So I'm thinking he's going to take maybe a couple of steps, 1, 2, and then he'll get ready to wave. So somewhere between there, we'll start the wave. So let's say 23 frames instead. And what I'll do is I'll hit I again, and then I'm going to add maybe 16 frames. Okay. Okay, so what I'm basically doing is getting the frame set up. So see how he, right? Okay. Now the reason why I turn the shoulder here is because we turned this midsection, right? So now I want this to go a little bit more also. So again, this is about finding it. So there's no way for me to just tell you, oh, do this, do that. I mean, I could, but then you'll just be doing what I'm doing and you won't really be doing your own thing. Okay. So on this part here, right, on the head, it was in linear. Okay, so I just changed the interpolation by hitting T and going to Bezier. All right, do not forget to save. So let's look at the playback. All right, so for that, I'm going to have his head turned earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this upper bone, the neck, and the head all together. Okay, and I'm going to go back to 0, and I want it to start. So I'm going to go to 16. I'm sorry, 16, and I'm going to kick this back to 16, and then I'm going to make it 23. No, I'm wrong. Another 16 is what I meant to do. All right. So I want to turn this one. And we're going to find it. So I'm thinking I want to push, by clicking this one, I think I want to push this one back 3 frames. Okay, so if you have Animate downloaded, which is free on GitHub, just search it on Google or whatever search engine you use. And when it's in this panel here, you have this little meter for overshooting. Turn it on. Trust me, it helps. Okay. And then over here, you can change between your modes. Now you could just click this and hold this. Like you could, like, I'm sorry, not this, and go through the modes, but I don't recommend it. I just say, just come over here and click it there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this and I'm gonna hit this first one just on it. You have 0 in the middle and then 1 and then -1. There's spaces between it, 3 spaces and then 2 on the outside of it. Okay, so I'm gonna hit 0. I mean the one right next to 0. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I have a playback tab. I'm gonna go into playback. I'm going to open up my camera. And for the camera, go into camera settings, you'll see camera, click the 3 prongs, and you can decide on one type of camera you want. Okay, I use a ARRI Alexa LF. And let's hit play. You see? Okay. All right. So I'm using his default action to sort of give him like a wave, but we're gonna change it. Don't worry about it. It's still gonna work. Okay. So he goes, he begin to turn his head. Let's look at it through the camera. Goes to turn his head, puts his hand up. All right, so now we have like this sort of pseudo wave from him. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all the parts that are officially a part of the wave. So it's all these parts. I'm gonna hit an eye. Now, for the sake of it, I'm going to damp track this camera to him. Okay, so we're gonna go to Object Constraints, Damp Track. I'm gonna go to -Z, trust me. And down in Influence, we're gonna make it like 0.3, okay? And then just go search the rig. Whatever that rig is, it might say armature. Then you have to give it which bone. In this case, we're using the head, okay? So now when he walks, it'll pseudo follow. So now I want it to really hard follow. So I'm gonna increase it. All right. So now, because I want it to be sort of down, there we go. Clear that out because I don't like that. All right. This way we don't have to animate it too much. Okay. All right. So now, on this, I'm going to have him do his thing. Uh-oh, so it went the wrong way. Cool. All right. Sometimes it's good to have it from the camera's perspective, which will help you with your animation. Because remember, people are seeing it from from the camera's point of view. Extreme. Let's go extreme on it. So it's like, all right, so I see what happened. All right, let's fix this like this. Click. Everybody go backward. And then select these. Yeah. Give it a real quick pop. Again, this is about finding it. So we're finding it, okay? Oof. Okay, so I see the thing that's going to be my issue. All right. So even though we're replacing this, yeah, adding to it the secondary animation on top, it's sort of like just brute forcing. So, all right. So what I'm thinking about doing is letting that play, but only on the arm. Okay. So I'll delete the arm animation and just let the hand fly. See how that worked? All right. So let's see. All right. That way. And I want him to come back again. So let's go. Right. Stretch it out a little. Bring it back one more time. Just repeating those keyframes. Hold on. All right, so now I'm gonna select all of this. Get rid of that one. Let's look at it from playback. That wrist. All right, let's fix that wrist. All right, there we go. And that can be smoothed out, but yeah, not too bad. All right. Okay, so let's smooth it out some. Now remember, I told you we're gonna be dealing with the graph editor, right? So let's move this real quick. And I want you to see all these handles are in Bezier, okay? But they are presently, wrong one. They are presently auto clamped, okay? So we can do, several things here. We can free them, align them, vector, automatic. So if we go automatic, this is what it looks like. Okay, which seemed to be okay, right? So watch it. Okay, which this isn't bad, all right? Okay, then or we can go align. I'm sorry, hold on, wait a minute. Clamp and then go align, which simply sort of like straightens out the curve. Okay, so let's just pick one. All right, let's do Y. Okay, so let's go to this one. All right, so as you can see, each one of these is like, okay, So the handle will move whichever direction I place, but it will give more precedence to that edge. Okay. All right. So to select everything again. All right. And let's look at the playback on that. Okay. So it's still wobbly in that one spot, right? All right. So now let's look at, because automatic, see what it does. I'm just saying you saw what it did in the graph editor. Now that one was a lot smoother. Okay, let's go back to auto clamped. Don't forget to save. Hit V again because it's the key V, and then we're gonna go because free just frees the handle so it doesn't change the way the curve moves. Okay, but if we go to vector, it makes all of them like a linear line. So now watch the playback. Okay. So if you see it from its directness, you can see each one of these became sort of like a linear line, right? See it? See how it snaps each thing into like a V shape, like a vector. Okay. All right. So if we go back to auto clamped to what we have. So what I'm thinking is, I know this thing is moving on the Z rotation, right? So I'm going to deselect all of that, hit C and circle select all of these curves. Okay. And the reason for that is if you go to the other ones, they're not selected, right? Okay. So we go back to Z, it's selected. So now let's say if I want to change it and I want to go to auto, now I go to auto and just on that particular one, it's switched. Okay. So we see that now we have a little bit, it's just a little smoothing, not a lot, but let me show you something. I'm going to hit V and free it. Okay, so those handles are now free. And in Animate, I'm going to click smooth. Okay, so let's go back to 0, the first frame, and hit it again. Okay, so that still has that bit of clunk right here. All right, so what I want to do is open that up, right? I just want to play with it until I get that bit of clunk out of it. So it still has that little weird clunkiness. I think that's on the Y though. Let's check. So let me select just that, and I'm going to hit smooth, and I'm going to hit it also with an automatic. Okay, just to see, and then we're going to free the keys because I want to be able to come in and play with those in a little bit. All right, so go back to the top. Yep, it was the Y. So let's see it again towards the end right here. See how it sort of just fades out? That's what I want. Okay. All right. So right there, I mean, I know I don't have any animation on his hands, but nonetheless, what I'm showing you here is how you can add to an animation. So now what I'm going to do for the sake of it, I'm going to press it down. Okay. So now it's together. Now when I click this strip and hit N, it shows add as the blending mode. When I go to the other one, it shows replace. We do not want this to say replace. Watch what happens. We don't want that. So we want it to be on add. Okay. All right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So that's what you want. All right. And this is going on top of it. Again, this is the animations that you want, the things that you want your character to portray. If you already have an animation, say you have a fighting animation that you've already done or retargeted even. Remember, mocap is a thing. Don't be afraid to use it. Excuse me. So, but this method allows you to do that. But remember, every time you want to stack on top, you have to add a track, and then you want to add that add. Okay, so you don't want to take away from it. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't add to this bottom track. These bottom tracks you can. I don't recommend it, but you can. So this one I would say add whatever you're going to add, and then give another track the opportunity. Use another track to add animation. Okay. So in this case, what I'm going to do. Oh, didn't want to start over. I'm going to, because there's shape keys involved, I'm going to click his face, and I'm going to add a shape key editor. Okay, so we have all these shape keys here, right? Okay, so I'm going to go in for his blinking. Okay, so we have close right, close left, and we also have close eye. However, I need to see it, so I'm going to go to texture and matte cap, so it shows what he looks like if he was in render mode. So we go into render mode real quick, render preview, and it just gives you, because it's using textures or texture maps versus procedural textures. So the materials are actual materials. I think it's funny that it's loading it. I think it's because I'm using OBS and my computer's just not been doing good lately. Excuse me. Let's wait for it to load. Okay, there we go. Almost. All right, there we are. So not much difference, right? Okay. All right, so let's look at the playback. But I want him to blink. So what I'll do is, again, I'm gonna hit I over the blink. And this is what I do. So it's gonna change up, okay? 6 frames, go to 1. Then I add 10 frames, go back to 0. And then over here where it says face clone baked, what I'm gonna do is open this up so we can see the keyframes. I'm gonna make it a fake user and then call it blink. And then push it down. This way now I can use it anytime I want, okay? I'm gonna add like 3 so it doesn't start immediately. And then push it down. All right, so there we go. So what I'm thinking is getting rid of the first one and pushing this one back just a little bit. There we are. And go. Just like that, we have a waving animation on top, even though it could still be a little smoother, but yeah. I'll tell you something else that you can do too. Let's say towards this animation you want it to end, right? A lot more quickly. So what I would do is on blend out, add 23 frames. And this way it's sort of, okay. Matter of fact, let's make it 32. And let's watch the playback. Yeah, I don't like that. You see what happened there, right? See how his body start to pull the parts? So that would work if we had 2, excuse me, baked animations. So that's another thing too. Being as we have him set up like this, what I can do is if I just want this to be one thing, the blinking will continue to be his own thing. But you would select the whole character, go up to pose, go to animation, click bake, and make sure the end frame is set to whatever the final frame you want it to be. Only select the bones, pose, and then click it. Okay. Do not do the other things because you have constraints on this thing. Excuse me. You would only want to clear the constraints if you were moving this animation over to a game engine. Other than that, you could bake it. Okay. So just letting you know that. All right. And that's pretty much it. So, excuse me. Just practice and work on these techniques. Look at it over and over again. If you want, just hop in the comment section and ask a question or check me out over at Discord, Quasi Animation Studio. Nothing but love.